There we are.
Hello, everybody. That felt so abrupt. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday. Pat, how are you, my heroic friend?
Heroic. I actually did some work on the show this week. That's why I'm heroic.
You held it all together.
Lila is the foundation of this show.
And, that is so not true. I am speaking to you from a hotel room, which is why my lighting's a little blitzed here. On the road with my other son, watching more baseball, and just rolled in. I have the necessities. I have my drink, which doesn't look like the same color as yours, Pat. But cheers to the salty dem.
Salty dem. We didn't make a graphic this week, but it's gin and vodka. You can add some lime juice if you want. Salt the rim with salt. See, I'm a man of my word. Man of many words. Grapefruit juice. I went ruby. She did not go ruby. That's the only difference here.
I did not go ruby, but you can't even see. Oh wow, that's kind of funny. But yeah, but cheers to the salty Dems. I know that DNC is feeling the burn today, feeling it. We'll get to that, but I do want to just say happy Passover to everyone who celebrates. I will be celebrating, but not until tomorrow. And but I do have the necessities. If you ever want to know what happens when the team mom is on the road and it's a 5 o'clock game, I know. I'm sorry, I don't have my regular audio. Can you not really hear me?
You're a little, I understand it. You're a little distant, but can we control our audio on our end?
I don't really think I can. No. I guess I can hold it right here. I don't know if that helps. Sorry. I know that stinks. And there goes my whole, this, my Diet Coke, which you can't even see, is actually filled with wine. So that's how you can get away with it at the field. And that's my whole tip for today. I'm sorry about that audio, guys. Not sure what to do. I'm sorry. Pat, how are you?
Well, I got just a super quick story since you just brought it up about sneaking in alcohol. So for my job, I won a sales contest in the past to go watch the Final Four in Atlanta.
Okay.
But if you know anything about college, they don't allow you you can't have alcohol in the games.
Like the one thing I know about college.
Right. And so my boss, who was a friend of mine, he's like, oh, we'll just load up our whole body with alcohol and get in there. And so they stopped me, pat me down, and I swear to God, pull out like 10 different bottles of alcohol from my pants, my jacket, everywhere. And anyway, long story short, we got in there, and I was working for Earthlink. We had a partnership with Sprint, and Sprint had a VIP booth. So we went in there, and the rich people are allowed alcohol. So the booths had alcohol, even though the entire event for the normies is not allowed to have a beer. Sports without beer
is rigged. Yeah, absolutely. My sister-in-law got me a great bracelet for Christmas, Hanukkah. That's basically just an enormous flask.
So there you go.
All this, yeah, it's pretty awesome. All right, because, and I'm just filled with apologies. I do have a hard out at 6 o'clock today. I think we should just get to it. There's a lot to cover. What do you think? Oh my God, where's the wheel?
Oh, it's coming. Stall.
Stall. I'll say, Lila Jose.
Tell me about your day. How was your day, Lila?
My day, if you want to know while I'm stalling, yesterday leaving the field, the coach asked me to put together a dinner for 40 people tonight. So that's where I'm headed. That's what I was doing. Crazy times.
You're kidding.
Not kidding.
You actually have to. Oh my God. All right.
All right. So what do we got? We got I Wish You Well, LOL, COVID Copium, Timeline Cleanse, Biden the Commie, another LOL, MAGA Felonies, and the Proxy War on Progressives. Let's spin the wheel.
Yeah, baby.
If there's one way I like to start a show,
Yeah.
It's with a shot.
Last week, what did we have? Like 8 shots or
Like
something?
before we even got to a topic, I think. Yeah. Cheers.
Well, I've already forgot to play our
Yeah, we didn't have our fun intro.
we're
We're out of
just winging
sorts
it today.
We're winging
This
it.
is what happens when Lila doesn't put it together.
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah,
get
baby.
Okay, I just thought this was hilarious. It's so inconsequential, but Gwyneth Paltrow was sued by a man who says that she ran into him on her fancy ski trip, and unfortunately for him, and this part is true, he suffered a pretty big injury, and I think has been having some brain issues and stuff. She had a whole lawsuit. It was televised. She carried herself with great aplomb, and people were thrilled about the way she dressed and handled herself. It was all semi-atrocious.
It was a lot of wackiness, though. It reminded me of her brand Goop, with all the crazy products that they sell.
Yeah, just there is something, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but so off-putting about her thinking she's an expert on how people should just go about their daily lives, I think is not her most attractive quality. But so at the end of the trial where she gets off, and it sounds like the evidence was in her favor, she was exonerated, right? Jurors in Gwyneth Paltrow's ski crash trial said Terry Sanderson was 100% at fault on a slope in Park City, Utah, and awarded the actress $1, which is the sum she had requested in her countersuit, right? And listen, I get that. Like, you don't want to just pay somebody out if you weren't at fault because it's, But as she's leaving the court, she leans down and says to him, "I wish you well," which feels like some sort of like Godfather kiss of death, right?
Right.
But it just we just sort of thought that the whole white women coming together to wish people well and congratulate each other was sort of a running theme that we've seen over the past few years with some of these people. But this was just an example from the trial. This was the lawyer for the plaintiff. So this is the woman who's supposed to be combative, questioning Gwyneth Paltrow.
You were wearing goggles, a helmet.
Yes.
Okay, kind of looked like everybody else on the slope.
That's always my intention.
Okay. Probably had a better ski outfit, though, I bet.
I still have the same one.
May I ask how tall you are?
I'm just under 5'10".
Okay, I am so jealous.
I think I'm shrinking, though.
You and me both. I have to wear 4-inch heels just to make it to 5'5".
Well,
so
they're very nice.
Oh, thank you. And you're not trained in accident reconstruction.
Me?
Yeah,
No.
neither am I.
I was yelling at him.
Pretty loud, pretty forceful.
I was pretty upset.
Right? You're
Yeah.
small but mighty. Actually, you're not that small. Okay, and I'm assuming,
The cringe.
you're under oath here, that you're a good tipper.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I wouldn't expect anything less.
That's the lawyer for the prosecution. Like, that is the woman who's supposed to be grilling her. But then on the heels, so anyway, yes, cringe after cringe. On the heels of that was the game, the LSU Iowa women's college game.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it all feels very much like Karen stuff,
Yeah.
It's like, which fits liberal white women, classic lib white women. And
100%.
that's kind of how it crossed over. And we had all the women's Final Four basketball drama, which seemed to fit this well.
Yeah. So starting with Angel Reese to Caitlin Clark doing her sorry, now you can't see me kind of deal, and really getting called out on it from, let's see, we have a lot of people. Well, this was the difference. When Caitlin Clark did it earlier in the playoffs, nobody talks about it. That's swagger. And when Angel Reese does it, she gets called out. Oberman calls her a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and what you should know is that, what's her name? Clark?
Yeah, Caitlin Clark. Yeah,
Caitlin Clark is she's breaking all kinds of records. She's like known to be like the best woman in the league. And she's very aggressive. She talks a lot of trash, which is, watch male basketball. That's it. Their athletes are going to talk trash, and especially in the game of basketball. So she's been doing this the whole tournament to everybody.
And nobody's like, there have been no memes, no Keith Olbermann's like making disgusting statements about how she isn't classy for that. But when Angel Reese does it, there's this huge, brouhaha about it. So much so that, and maybe this wasn't the direct result, but Jill Biden invites the losing team, Iowa, to join the champions at the White House. Which, has that ever been done before? Like, does everyone get a trophy happen all the time?
The losers don't get to go there, and it's even worse because she made it about sportsmanship, which directly implied that Angel Reese was very unsportsmanlike for her.
Unsportswomanlike. Yeah, right. So she's just piggybacking on that just kind of gross response to somebody doing what everybody does on the court. I did think this was funny, though, that Angel Reese won't accept Jill Biden's apology and says, we'll go to the Obamas, which makes me think she doesn't know much about the Obamas, because
true story.
Really think,
There's a clip of her.
If we were to lose, we would not be getting invited to the White House. And I remember she made a comment about both teams should be invited because it was sportsmanship. And I'm like, are you saying that because of what I did? And what, like, that stuff like that, it bothers me, because you are a woman at the end of the day. And you're supposed to be standing behind us before anything. So it's hard to see things like that and not to comment back on it.
I mean, she's 100% right. There is no way that LSU would have been invited if Iowa had won.
Absolutely not. No chance in hell.
No chance. And they would have been talking about sports. I mean, I remember when I was younger, hearing people talk about how, oh my God, the Celtics were a team of gentlemen. Like there was a big thing about how that white team were the gentlemanly team. I think it's a long-standing undercurrent of racism that exists. And listen, I wish them all well. Yeah. Mark Lamont Hill. If Iowa had won, you think the Bidens would be inviting LSU? Of course not. Whiteness is a hell of a drug. Yeah. And Nina Turner also. Would LSU be invited if Iowa had won? No. I mean, there's just really, I would love to see an example, but I couldn't find one. So if someone has it, let me know. I don't know where the runner-up gets a trophy also to the White House. Right?
Yeah, and Caitlyn herself said that she had no ill feelings over it.
Yeah.
And, it was ridiculous because, look, she's been doing this same gesture the entire time. She's a peak competitor. It's just what happens in sports.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry. This was another person saying Clark's mom and dad can be proud that her daughter ignored the taunting. They raised her right. I mean, really gross. But anyway, I thought her response was perfect and accurate. So great. All right. Should we move on? Do you have anything else you want to say about wishing?
Yeah, I don't even know how it fits here, but did you see? I think I may have labeled it wrong, but I'm going to show it here anyway.
Okay, good. I can't wait.
Well, no, it goes with "I wish you well," I guess, somewhat, because it's Kamala Harris at a speech about free internet service, and just to set it up, she's explaining like how would you know if you qualify for this?
If you're poor, like, because you have to have a low enough level of income to qualify. Right.
Base, yeah. And here she is. This is the person that was chosen to be vice president, who, they would hoped would replace Biden, and probably would have replaced Biden by now if her popularity was any better. But
to check if you qualify for the ACP, look at your neighbor. To check if you qualify, go to getinternet.gov. To check if you qualify, go to internet.gov.
Poverty is such a joke. It's like a punchline. I mean, I guess that shows it's not only white women. Women.
I mean, yeah, I guess she could be a black Karen. Kamala, if there was one, it would probably be her.
She's 100% a Karen. Yeah, no doubt. And obviously Keith Olbermann is also. So we're not picking, it's not just white women, it's not just women, it's not just whatever. There's a bunch of them.
True story.
Wish you well. True story.
They're
finish.
male Karens too. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Love it. I love that shot.
Oof. All right.
I'm not gonna lie, that's my fourth because we pre-gamed. Okay, spin it.
Yeah, baby.
Haha, where Big Liver Transplant has their finger on the wheel. Yeah, we could get a sponsor from Big Liver Transplant. What did we just land on?
Biden the commie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and we say commie because, the right loves to call him a commie. And
Despite all evidence to the contrary.
Obviously, he's not a commie, but he's not even holding to his centrist viewpoints that allegedly got him elected.
Yeah.
He's backing away on that. I mean, start with the border.
Unbelievable. MAGA House Republican proposals would slash funding for border security, a move that would allow nearly 900 pounds of fentanyl into our country. We need more resources to secure the border, not less. More cops, more border.
Yeah. Tougher on the border and the wall than Trump was.
And he's right back into his fight on drugs, which obviously, fentanyl's horrible, but like he has really never strayed from Crime Bill Joe.
Yeah, he's stuck in the 80s and
this
super
is
predators.
So revolting. Imagine if Trump had done this. So 38 people deported by Biden's expansion of Trump's Remain in Mexico policy just burned to death when the cages they were put in caught on fire. I mean, these are people who were coming here looking for refuge, and we send them back and allow them to burn alive to death.
Yeah, I mean, where's AOC on this is what I want to know.
Crying in her white pantsuit
at
chain link fence.
And we're all terrorists now. If you're protesting, you're going to be labeled a terrorist.
Yeah. So that's at Cop City, people protesting Cop City and the removal, the deforestation. It's a twofold affront to all of us. But yeah, now you are a terrorist if you are a peaceful protester. They already killed one person, which the autopsy showed he was sitting cross-legged with his hands up when they shot him to death. And I know we all watch those videos of the protests in France, and it is really stirring and admirable. And there have been a lot of people saying, why can't we do that here? And I do think at some point it will probably have to come down to that. But the reason we don't do that here is we all saw what happened in 2020, where, vans just rolled up and took protesters, just threw protesters in the back of their van. There was one guy who was just, shot point blank by some of the officers. People were tear gassed. They lost their eyes. They were beaten. We have a whole different relationship with our police in this country from the one they do in France, even though there's been quite a bit of violence, but it's not the same. They don't have the same level of militarization. I don't think their police have the same level of absolute hatred for the communities they're supposed to serve.
It's the police are on the right and everyone else protesting is on the left. That's how it always works out. So that's why they get escorted into the Capitol, for example.
Yeah.
And that's why you get all these white supremacist groups with free reign at protests where the actual protesters get arrested. But he's pushing more, he's tougher on crime than the Republicans. Like if you elect Republicans, you're going to get less police force is the new message.
He is running to the right of MAGA Republicans. This is the next FDR, the most progressive president of our lifetime. Yeah,
and meanwhile, if you actually poll people, and this was the poll that the LAPD put up and had to take down.
Tweet has been deleted. Yeah. 77% of people would like to see less police officers in their area.
Yeah.
Defund and abolish.
But he's still, he runs on tough on crime, but he's still running as this pro-labor act guy. Meanwhile, he obviously shut down the
the audacity
strike.
to even write that. Exactly. I mean, the biggest labor strike of our time was about to happen when, how many different unions was that coming together? I think it was 12 or 13
40.
or something.
I'm going to say 40 because it sounds better.
Or 40. Thousands of labor, but coming together. It took them years to go through the proper channels, and he just shut it down, sent them back to work against their will in unsafe conditions. And we've seen how many train derailments every week since then, with huge ecological effects and effects on all of our health as it poisons our water and air. And he's going to sit there and say that he's
yeah, I mean, with the train wreck, just one after another.
Yeah. And this is exactly what those rail workers were warning us all about, that the unsafe conditions for them, being overworked and exhausted, the unsafe infrastructure that these railways run on because of stock buybacks from the CEOs who would rather enrich themselves and their shareholders than invest in the rails and the trains to keep them up. I mean, this is what they were warning about. And the fact that nobody calls him out on it.
I mean, and add to the fact that the lobbyists changed the definition of what are unsafe chemicals, so that the trains can transport some of these things without the needed protections that would go if the chemical was rated a higher class danger were it to spill.
Right.
And none of that's based on science. It's based on, they lobbied these guys and they said, oh yeah, thanks for the $500,000 donation to my campaign. Why don't you give 10 more donations to these other Democrats and they'll pass the bill too. And that's how Washington works.
Absolutely.
And then we're learning now that the EPA let everyone back into town in Pennsylvania, East Palestine, and didn't even test for some of the dangerous chemicals, thanks to status quo.
And they got sick. Yeah, cheers to status quo for being always on the ground for these ecological issues, but also a bunch of them got sick because of the air.
Right, and they admit that some of their decision-making has been based on preventing lawsuits. Is that really what you want your EPA doing? Like, is that the standard? We just won't get sued? That's all that matters? Like, this is Biden's EPA.
Yeah. Stephen Donziger, EPA scientist, said the agency never properly tested for toxins before telling Ohio residents to go home after the chemical bomb train disaster. Stunning admission of malfeasance, a horrific corporate crime with an official cover-up. And who will pay the price? Just the people of East Palestine and anybody who drinks water or breathes air.
Yeah, which brings us to, one of the clear things about Biden is that he's not saving us from the environment. He's not saving us from ourselves. He's not putting us on a path to being carbon neutral at all. In fact, he followed the Willow Project up with this. This just came out. They're auctioning off 73 million acres of Gulf water to the fossil fuel companies, which is going to extract over 1 billion barrels of oil in the next 50 years.
At the same time, climate scientists are ringing the alarm bells. We are in dire straits. Auction comes just 2 weeks after Biden's administration approved the controversial Willow Project, a drilling endeavor in the remote tundra of Alaska's Arctic that will remove more than 600 million barrels of oil over its lifetime. And the two actions have caused major alarm among those in favor of a livable climate, including Biden's usual allies. I don't know. Who's in favor of a livable climate? That's such a crazy thing. What's that constituency?
It's the rich and 70 or so old, 70 so years old, and lack empathy and don't care about what kind of world you're leaving your kids. It's pretty much them. It
pretty much is, yeah.
313 tracts of ocean, 1.6 miles. It's just going to go to the highest bidder of the 32 fossil fuel companies.
Yeah. And again, the whole harm reduction cause, that people tried to get everyone to vote for Biden. I mean, when Trump did these things, at least there was a whole system of journalists or, legacy media who were outraged and called him out on it. And when Biden does it, it's barely a blip. Even if it gets one write-up in the New York Times or whatever, people just move on. If it were Trump, there would be weeks of talking about anything he did that was outrageous. And he did everything he did was outrageous. But pretty much everything Biden does is outrageous. What has he done that's been so what?
These people that will ignore this will say, well, Trump would have done twice as much or something like that. But no, he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have been able to get away with this. He would not have been able to get away with this or the Willow Project.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He has been a corporate whore his entire life, no doubt. I'm trying to read all the comments. Neoliberal Dems are worse than Republicans because Dems can get away with so much more than any Republican. That's right. I mean, people would be in the streets.
That's it in a nutshell. And they're not reporting on a lot of the things so one of the big factors of climate change is because the ice in the Antarctic is going to melt. It's going to raise the sea level, which is going to erode all the coasts in most places. And now we know huge chunks of ice are on the verge of breaking off. Like they call these like the doomsday icicles or something. I don't know, but this should be on the news all the time.
I mean, this is Don't Look Up. We're just like living in a satirical movie and all of our lives are at stake. Between this and COVID, it's just very clear that it's a culling. They're just getting rid of all of us. And I just want to go back for a second because I saw Saul wrote something up above that part of the reason that the George Floyd protests ended was because people believed the lies that we were going to get somebody better who was going to respond to what activists were demanding, and people were lied to, and I think that is also part of it. But boy, that energy, they crush that energy every chance they get.
They turned majority support for BLM into a negative and made it all about defund the police and it's bad to defund the police. But we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you see Kamala on Colbert? I don't know. We didn't get the prep as much together, so I'm not sure if you watched this, but
I did.
This is Kamala Harris explaining why they supported the Willow Project.
Oh my God.
Like that on Colbert.
Was there any discussion in the White House about what the blowback would be for approving the Willow Oil Project? Because people have gotten quite upset about it. I think there's some protesters outside right now.
Well, I think that the concerns are based on what we should all be concerned about, but the solutions have to be and include what we are doing in terms of going forward, in terms of investments.
I feel better already. I had to pour myself a drink. Did you caught me? Yeah, I was like that lady doesn't make me feel better about anything, actually.
I mean, the solutions are
what you have to be concerned about.
What we have to go forward on together.
Be concerned about it.
I mean, she's like, it just reminds me of Beto. It's so Beto of her, like totally. America, the thing, but he was better at it than she was. Like he would say all that stuff, and at the end he'd be like, it's sort of likable if you don't pay attention. It's a rah-rah go team. Her, you're just like, we all know you didn't say a fucking thing.
She is Veep. I mean, she really is like a parody of herself. He at least, he had some good, remember when he was asked about gun control? This was like in 2018 or 19. Actually, before I read too much about him, I was like, that was a good speech. Yeah, but then, they're all the same. They really are. It's the Vanity Fair, the politics of Vanity Fair. Yeah. All right. What do you think? Should we move on?
I think we move on to the other stuff.
I think we move on. All right.
The other stuff being shots, timeline cleanses.
Hell yeah. Got it.
Yeah, baby.
You are like magic.
I was born for this.
You were same. Welcome to my world. I was born to it. Cheers.
If anybody knows of a wheel program that doesn't look like it came out of the 70s, Let me know. I've looked all over, tried to buy them. They just don't exist. So we have to use this, but it is what it is.
All right, let's see what we got. Cheers.
Yeah, baby.
Oh my God. This actually. This sort of works well with the Passover celebration I'm missing out on tonight, because it always, like, you're on page 3 and they talk about now you should be on your 4th glass of wine.
Is that right?
I was like, oh yeah, sure, quick. Yeah.
Is there a lot of drinking in Passover? I know literally nothing about it.
Oh, you have to come for a Seder. Yes, 100%. There's a lot of Jews drink. We love our wine and anything.
Here's to the Seder.
Here's to the Seder. Cheers. Shag Samak. All right.
Is it the Seder? I don't even know.
Passover. And the Seder's the dinner, yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, okay. I swear we have no control over this wheel other than deleting things.
It's what we would do if we did have control, but yes. And I still have to show up to a team dinner as a responsible parent. Cheers.
Nice. Well, I'll leave that last shot on there, but we're definitely getting a topic here.
Oh my goodness.
Odds are in our favor.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, that's a good one. We need that. It's going to happen tomorrow night, Dave. All right, let's see.
Timeline. Let's show that. You said this was from The Onion, right? I watched this.
It was, and then it was pulled, but it's good.
Okay, I'm nervous. This might get us booted off of YouTube.
Yeah,
it's calling for murder. But whatever.
If it's good enough for The Onion.
Now, looking ahead to the rest of the week, we're eyeing record high temperatures in New York City, which could spell major troubles for the city's electric grid. With the mercury climbing into the triple digits and air conditioners on full blast, the city may be at high risk for a massive blackout, which would, of course, finally make conditions ripe for the long overdue overthrow of the unjust socioeconomic caste system that has burdened our society for centuries. Now, as temps reach up as high as 105 degrees by tomorrow afternoon, the possibility of an electrical outage will become very real. And we should start seeing the neglected working class, the real people of New York, reclaiming the city in a stunning display of righteous pent-up violence lasting weeks on end. I would ask the striving proletariat to remember that, should a blackout occur, there will be no alarms in stores, no closed-circuit cameras watching them, and cell phone systems will be so overloaded, no one will be able to contact the police. So now would be the time to throw off those shackles of oppression that have kept you and your kind servile and neutered like cowering dogs for generation upon generation. I would also ask those toiling masses to think long and hard about why they are poor, while the cackling vultures of avarice live comfortably in their shiny glass towers high above the din, profiting off the misery of the hardworking and just. Looking ahead to the immediate future of the city and the future of all New Yorkers who wish to be free, here are the people who must be eliminated. You're going to want to take them out cleanly and quickly. The head of the snake must be sliced off without pity or remorse. With your numbers, there's no stopping you from laying waste to J.P. Morgan Chase headquarters or Rockefeller Center or all those gaudy, gold-plated condo buildings in Central Park West. The time has come for equality and justice born of blood. Must we toil for the privileged few while hungry children scour for scraps in the gutter? Rise up! Rise up! Kill the snarling jackal! Fulfill your destiny as free men and begin the new age. The promise of true independence looms before you. Seize it now! Seize it! And destroy all who attempt to stand in your way! And moving on to the New England coastal region, it looks like some light rain patterns may put a damp.
I like it. He's my kind of weatherman. Oh, uh-oh. Can't hear you.
Oh, that was some good comedy.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah, it's just comedy. Just
it's a little comedy. We do not endorse, but we kind of endorse. And I saw that. I like that they include all the people. All right. What do you think? Should we spin our wheel? Ooh, the sun.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
This isn't my normal lighting. It's kind of freaking me out here.
I did want to point out, and I didn't know where to do it, so I threw it in timeline. We've come a long way with Peter Dow. Peter Dow tweeted out our show, which, considering I wrote a whole book mocking him to death as Peter Douche, this guy's come around to the left now.
He has made a total 180. Cheers to Peter Dow. And thank you also. He's one of the few people on the left who continues to talk about COVID. Most people have decided we are post-COVID. Remember back when we were in COVID?
Yeah.
Way back then?
Well, we're even if they haven't decided we're post-COVID, they don't want to talk about COVID because the viewers don't want to hear about it, which, okay, that doesn't change the fact that it's real and people need to know about the dangers. And I don't respect anybody that doesn't talk about COVID.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
It's a pandemic. If you're on the left, you can't talk about COVID, especially with Medicare for all is like the #1 equalizer that could happen in this country.
Yes.
I don't care. We're going to keep talking about it.
Yep. All right.
So back to the wheel.
Yeah, baby.
Look at that.
It does kind of feel like Passover. Just keep drinking.
Does it? Am I Jewish now?
Yeah. We need some gefilte fish and haroset and matzo ball soup.
There's something about opening your door to strangers or something. I saw that on TV earlier today.
Yeah. Chair for Elijah. Yeah.
Yeah. Chair for Elijah. God damn it. If only I had a memory. If I had a memory, because they literally said that.
See that? Cheers. Cheers to Elijah.
That one was for Elijah.
Do
I remove it or leave it?
I mean, we got 22 minutes left. I feel like we should leave it.
Leave it on.
Yeah. All right.
What would Kamala say?
We're talking about Elijah, like, because, he's without a place to go. She would make some shitty comment about homeless people or something. I don't know. I was going somewhere with a joke and I hadn't thought it through well enough. So, yeah.
Yeah, baby.
We're going to cut this. I'm going to cut this from the show.
See what happens when you don't remove these.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. That's a lot. This is a lot. We need that liver transplant paid advertising. Corporate sponsor.
Absolutely. Lab-grown lizards' livers.
Mine might as well
Sign
be
me up.
Lizard. Cheers.
Leaving
Okay,
it on.
a little bit did go down my lip. Hole in my lip. All right.
No comment.
Yeah, baby.
It is our very favorite topic, the topic that just won't die. And it's,
It'll die when we die of COVID.
I mean, they're defunding treatments, they're ending the public health emergency, and we have not dropped below 10,000 deaths a month for over a year.
Yeah, and before we get into that, let's just show you. I mean, this was pre-election Biden, 220,000 deaths. Everyone's seen this tweet, but if you hear nothing else I say tonight on this podcast, anyone who is responsible for that many deaths should not remain president of the United States.
What if you're responsible for 4 times that many deaths?
1 million more.
Yeah.
1 million more. And look, it doesn't even the deaths are actually much higher than they're talking about.
Yeah, which goes against all the Leanna Wens and the Atlantic bullshit columns where they try to say that we've overcounted because it was underlying or not underlying, or it was actually a gunshot wound and not COVID. That was all BS. With no media discussion, people keep dying at rates far higher than before the COVID-19 pandemic. For every 1 person who officially dies from COVID, 2 to 4 more die from other unnamed causes who would not have died before 2020. Welcome to the perpetual pandemic.
Yeah, and here's their look, the higher average is well over 25 million from COVID.
Cumulative excess deaths during COVID worldwide.
Yeah. But we're constantly told the COVID
Just the flu.
It's just the flu. So if you look in blue there is the flu.
On the left, that almost is on the same x-axis, right? Like it barely, I mean, it's horrible. Any death is horrible, but those are the flu deaths on the left, those little blue chunks. And over the same time period is COVID deaths on the right.
So at its lowest there on the right there, you've got about 3 times as many people dying of COVID as the flu. So that's at its lowest. And that's not calculating the effects of long COVID, how many lives are being ruined. With the flu, there's no real long flu that destroys all your organs, permanently clots your organs.
Right. And once you recover from the flu, you likely don't get it a second or third time in a season. Unlike Joe Biden, who now has his 3rd cold of the season. Give me a break.
Yeah. So, with all this going on, and every day we're learning more about long COVID, and we're learning more. The scientists are understanding more about the damage being done to it, not how to stop it, but the damage being done and the effect
to our bodies, to your vascular system, to your organs. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but so as a consequence, we should be at least keeping in stay the protections we have, because we know we're exposing kids to this 2 to 3 times a year on average, and it's got a cumulative damage to people. But the GOP led a measure to end the COVID emergency now, which isn't that much different. Biden was going to end it in May, so it's like a 2-month head start on ending the emergency. But
that has real world effects, right? Like it kicks people off of insurance and Medicaid. And also, like, it's just fascinating that he won't veto a GOP bill, but said that he would veto Medicare for all if it came to his desk. So just for anybody ever making excuses for him, you really, we have a bridge to sell you. Like, that's pathetic. He does exactly what he wants to do when he wants to do it for his donors.
Absolutely. And we've known for a while that COVID is doing some real bad things to the brain. We don't really understand it entirely yet, but this was, I believe, in January. Even a mild case of COVID can shrink your brain the same as aging 10 years, study shows. This just came out a few weeks ago. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the new one. This was from January.
Right.
The brain can age between 1 and 10 years after each COVID infection.
After each COVID infection, right? So if they're telling us you're going to get it 2 to 3 times a year,
and your brain is aging, let's just say on the loose end, 1 time every time you get an infection. So you get it twice a year. In 3 years, you've had 6. So your brain is 6 years older. So when life expectancy drops in the U.S. to record lows, I mean, you might want to look at COVID for this.
Absolutely.
You might.
And our crap healthcare system but the thing that, as we keep not doing anything about protecting people and then telling people to take vaccines, I think we're not really funding new vaccines anymore.
That's part of the emergency declaration is it was funding the vaccines, treatments, testing,
research and development. But even if we were, if people aren't trying to flatten the curve and mitigate the spread, then the vaccine's always catching up. We're never going to prevent the mutations and the variants that will prohibit those vaccines from actually doing what they're meant to do. So I don't know what their long-term goal. I mean, I sort of do, but I don't know where they think this ends. I guess it's like climate change. Like they are they're hoarding all the resources and letting.
This is why they want us to focus entirely on that the death total is down. But I don't it's not sustainable. I mean, we've got, it's much worse than this, but right now for all US adults overall, this is the government reporting. This is the CDC reporting that 1 in 13 people have long COVID symptoms. That's the CDC saying that, but why isn't that messaging being translated to the actual press reporting that 1 in 13? Do you think that would scare people that 1 in 13 have these issues?
I mean, imagine if they focused on what's happening to the health of this country in the same way they focus on if somebody held a door open for Trump on his way to his arraignment or whatever the hell, like the way the legacy media, corporate media has decided not to cover this anymore. And it was just such a stark contrast that under Trump, there was that death ticker going, which it should always be going, or like when they're, and the fact that listen, every school shooting, every big shooting, it's horrific. I would love to have gun regulations. I can't even imagine what these people are going through, whose kids are in schools. My kids have been in several lockdowns. It's horrible. But many times that number are dying every year because of our horrific healthcare system. And then now with COVID, and we don't talk about that, 10,000 people dying every month. 10,000. I mean, that's like
the potential that we're disabling all of our kids.
All,
literally all.
And nobody talks about it, but Trump.
Yeah. I mean, in California, an estimated 30% of women have been plagued by long COVID.
38, sorry to correct you, but it's almost an extra 10%, 38% of women. That's crazy.
So they're wondering why this next generation is long COVID is making some people choose not to have kids. Well, people with long COVID don't have a lot of energy, for one. So they're not confident that their bodies will withstand a pregnancy. A pregnancy is the most taxing thing you can do to a body.
Here. I mean,
allegedly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, no healthcare system, no remedy for long COVID. Let it rip. Economy sucks. People are feeling sick. They can't work. I don't know. What do you do when a country has a life expectancy that continues its decline when every other developed country, even in the midst of COVID, has
bounced back? Yeah.
And we're not going to, nobody is doing any sort of systemic change.
What you do if you're, a neoliberal government is you pretend it's not a big deal because you're just looking for your short-term interests, which is to achieve funding from your donors. That's the only short-term interest politicians have. Yep. Get funding to get reelected so you can have insider tips on stocks and get rich.
Yep.
That's the whole deal. So what do? You release a lot of propaganda. That's the game plan. Buy some time until you're out of office. So now we're hearing some good news about COVID and the short life expectancy. Pensions you're doing well in your pensions in the UK because, hey, why? Because everyone's dead. They're all dying. So your pension money is getting secured. And it comes to the US too. You got Krugman flat out admitting it.
Yep. I mean, first of all, what a way to write this with so little respect for the deaths of his fellow citizens. Yep. COVID killed off a bunch of the more expensive Medicare recipients, improving the program's finances for the next few years. You might call this an act of God. I mean, what the fuck? Except that America suffered far more deaths than any other advanced countries. I mean, there is a way to phrase what he said without sounding like such a smug asshole who has spent so much of his career denigrating the very policies that could have helped us come out of this pandemic in a different way. And instead, he's going to write with this glib disrespect for people who have lost their lives or are now disabled.
Yeah. They don't care is what it comes down to.
Truly don't care.
They don't. And don't look, I always waffle between, I understand both strategies electorally, like fuck electoral politics. Like on one hand, you want to minimize the harm. So harm reduction is one, it makes sense sometimes when you have some real crazy right-wing people in your city. But then on the other side of it, it's like accelerationism makes sense too, because if you keep covering for these problems never get fixed. And sometimes you have to just have a 4-year cycle of awful. maybe that's the only way you get through this stuff. So, I don't pretend to have the answer on that. But I think that's why I can understand people on both sides of this argument. Whether, I don't know, like what would happen if we had another 4 years of Trump? Would it be worse? I don't think it'd be worse on COVID. I really don't. I think
there's no way it could be
pressure
worse
on
on
him.
COVID. Yeah. Definitely it would not be worse on COVID because at least liberals would be saying we should still be masking.
Right. And so would we be closer to getting, progressive policy? We might be closer because we're not getting anything from Biden being pushed left. That's just a whole entire.
I mean, they don't even talk about Medicare. Every once in a while, there's a tweet about Medicare for all, but only now after we lost.
Only when they lost.
Only after we lost the House, and they know there's no chance of it passing.
Yeah. So anyway, on COVID, I'll leave you one thing. We need to still fight. The idea that we are giving up entirely all COVID stuff, protections, we have some power to put pressure on people like Bernie to say something about it,
Yep.
So we should at least try. And there's a White House number to call. The idea that we're getting rid of testing and treatment and getting rid of masks in hospitals is the absolutely stupidest thing I've ever fucking heard.
It is grotesque, actually.
Yell at somebody. Yell at your neighbors. Call this line and yell. Tweet some shit.
Definitely do not be civil in the midst of this giant eugenics experiment where they're just culling the herd, thinning the herd so that our Social Security benefits last.
That's the silver lining.
It is a silver lining.
Let's do one more. You got one more?
Right.
I know you have a heart out. But
we got another one. Let's do it.
I didn't remove COVID.
Oh no.
We'll just choose.
Yeah, baby.
Of course. All right.
What do you want to do?
I'd love to do the Brandon Johnson one, the proxy war, because it's always 2015 in my house, baby.
Let's do it.
I'm always rooting for Hillary and Obama and Axelrod and that whole gross group of people to lose.
Yeah, if they're cheering for you, you are the bad guy.
Brandon Johnson, a progressive organizer backed by teachers union, wins Chicago mayor's race over moderate, and that's really putting it mildly, Paul Vallas. Hear, hear, cheers. It brought out all of the worst people in the world. Brandon Johnson, a county commissioner and former teachers union organizer, was elected mayor of Chicago on Tuesday.
An actual teacher and union organizer.
That's right.
I mean, I don't want to say I trust him entirely because he did back off of defund the police, but that's a discussion we should have. So
it is, because here's the thing. I'm sorry, I'm looking for it. Early in the campaign, videos emerged of a 2020 interview in which Johnson described defunding the police as an actual real political goal. The comments followed him throughout the campaign. He initially pivoted from answering them, and later said he would not defund the police if he were elected, but would fund a more holistic approach to public safety. To me, and I don't know, we're going to have to see what he ends up doing, but to me, that is what defund the police is. It's not truly starving all of, it's like when they show that ice cream scoop thing, and it's like, instead of police taking care of everything, like I'm done with our police. I would like to abolish the police. But short of that, the defunding is that you take that money and start putting it towards other programs, investing in the community, investing in healthcare, in getting people housed, in good schools, in social workers. Sometimes, listen, I didn't come up with that slogan, and I know people like to be like, I agree with everything you say, but not the way you say it. I'm not that. I think it's gotten a lot of attention, and I think that's really important. But I think what he's doing by pivoting the language, but not necessarily the policies, is the way to go.
Yeah. So I want to add,
I
want to add an asterisk to this and say, look, we shouldn't trust anyone that gets into office. Show us. So you're immediately suspect to me because of that backing off of defund. Now, having included my asterisk, look, he's doing what the people that said they support defund but didn't like the language did. He basically just said, hey, I'm backing away from the term defund, but here is
We could
what defund
reimagine.
actually
Right.
stands for. So
Yeah.
it got him in the conversation. It worked. That gained him support in Chicago.
Yeah.
So, you know, he did appeal to the center by backing away from the term.
Yeah.
But he did what many people, even the centrists, their excuse for it was like, oh, it hurt us that we used that term.
Yeah.
But so he did back away from it, but we'll see, you know, hold him accountable. That's the whole game. Now that you're in there.
Yeah. And, you know, right now that makes two people that I can think of who actually ran with defund the police as part of their campaign at some point, and they both won. That's Brandon Johnson and Cori Bush. So Democrats, the DNC, the, you know, corporate Democrats, they need to be taken down several pegs and just reminded how much people want to reimagine the way police interact in our communities. So I hope that's what he does.
And let's hope that all this is true about cops resigning.
The best part of a Brandon Johnson win is that the Chicago Police Union threatened, this was before, I mean, this has to be some kind of election interference. They said that 800 to 1,000 officers may resign if Brandon Johnson wins the mayoral race. I will say that I love that. I mean, I think it's hilarious.
Might not be true.
Yeah, I don't know if it's true or not, but it was just like a funny moment of, see ya, good, bye. But going back to the, sorry.
Well, I just want to add an asterisk, me and my asterisks today.
Yeah.
I do want to say that, okay, last week we showed the clip of Biden talking where he was joking about ice cream. And it was allegedly, and this, we were wrong. This is, you know, what you do as a responsible journalist. And we're not even responsible journalists. And we're
not responsible.
We're not
journalists.
I'm not responsible, but that was not before he gave his gun speech. It was, I think it was the same day at another event.
Okay. But I just still have to say there is a call for solemnity when you are talking after the slaughter of children in a school. Like, I mean, even if it wasn't exactly juxtaposed or butting up against that speech he was given, like, I don't know. It just feels, he's just gross. I'm not cutting him any slack, but
I just want to report, you know, I think
accuracy is important.
Accuracy is important. And if you're going out of your way to find things wrong that aren't wrong, you should be suspect yourself. And we're not trying to be suspect and paint things incorrectly. So
thank you.
Except when I make up numbers. I do make up numbers because
500 railway
7,000.
But so here's just an example. The Chicago mayoral race will mark at least the second time Obama world has moved against the progressive left. Obama himself helped snuff out Bernie in 2020. In 2023, many top Obama allies are backing Paul Vallas over Brandon Johnson, Bernie's candidate. Ha ha.
Obama's lost. They spent twice as much on TV.
Look at that.
So this goes to the argument again that it's not necessarily the money every time, but you need to get your name out. You need to get a message. You need to have
policies that people want. Fight for the people. Yeah. Is this?
Oh, this is just them being salty. The Democrats are salty. They're making excuses for why the centrists lost. They're trying to pretend that he was like not a centristy loyal Democrat that lost.
Yeah, and I'm looking for all of the crappy people who came out. There was like the Axelrod. Is this the one? Oh yeah, Axelrod, loser. Interesting, well-reasoned piece by former Education Secretary Arne Duncan, Obama's guy. They're all charter school people who want to talk about defunding. They all want to defund public schools, and Vallas did that in New Orleans. There are no public schools in New Orleans because of Paul Vallas. But here's Arne Duncan. Sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, anyway, who's leading an anti-violence program in Chicago? What is happening? Anyway, it's about the city's public safety crisis and why he believes Paul Vallas is the best choice. So, here's David Axelrod supporting Arne Duncan, two Obama people coming out in favor of basically the right wing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what we're seeing, look, mayors have a lot of power. Like a senator and a congressperson, their vote goes in the the pool and they need all these other votes to get things done. Mayors can get things done. Look at Adams in New York. And Adams sucks is the whole point, but he's gotten a lot done in New York. Oops.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Mayor wants to cut social services again. We could fully fund them by making the rich pay what they owe. Just like Gavin Newsom, we're not taxing the rich, but they're his donors and he cannot upset them by calling for higher taxes. So instead of blaming the rich, he blames migrants and labor. Gross. Just gross, gross, gross.
I know you have a heart out, Lila, unfortunately. But this is a good thing right here. This is a positive tweet. I think this is maybe a good place to sort of end on.
Brandon Johnson is the latest reverberation of explosive and historic 2012 CTU, Chicago Teachers Union strike, demonstrates that the left can and must do all it can on a local level. We need strong and militant labor unions, powerful community organizations, and winning electoral strategies. If we build power, then we can win power. That is a great, hopeful way to go. I was really happy to see Brandon Johnson win. I was like doing the refresh on the polls again, because it, listen, Obama has come out of his money cave exactly 3 times. Once to crush Bernie, second time to crush the possibility of an NBA strike during the George Floyd protests. And I don't know what the third time was, to cash in on his Netflix deal. More money, more money, more money. So it feels good for that whole gnarly group of corporate Democrats to go down. It's always 2016.
Let's call today a win. I mean, look, I'm glad Trump's getting prosecuted.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
If it's, look,
I have a
I don't
couple more
care.
minutes if you want to talk about it. Want to talk about it?
Well, I mean, look, the hype is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's going to distract from things that should get attention. That's true. But he's a criminal. Let's be honest. He's a grifty, shady bastard. I'm glad he goes down eventually. And I think he probably will. I mean, we'll see that.
I don't know if he will, but
there are ways he can get out of this. This case could end up before the Supreme Court somehow.
Right.
It's still possible. And, odds are he gets it past that point. But I don't think you should stop prosecuting him on his crimes. But his business crimes are the worst of them. Not
his business crimes, using his office to enrich himself and also to make foreign governments, sort of pay up and treat him and his family a certain way. And if this starts a domino effect of our leaders, our corrupt leaders, being prosecuted for their crimes, which should always happen because nobody should be above the law, I'm good with that. Let's go back and go to George W. and really hold them all to account.
They all protect themselves because they always act like, well, these other countries, the next party comes in and there's a backlash to the last guy and they throw him in jail, and it's undemocratic to go after the last guy. No, it's democratic to hold people accountable for fucking following the law. And you're just because you're president, like this would be a huge example to all the senators getting rich off of stock bullshit.
100%. Yeah.
So,
but of course, corporate media is going to use it as a big, obfuscation to every other serious, disgusting thing that Biden and everyone in power is doing. But until then, we should be happy for small wins and big wins.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think I'm an outlier in thinking that this, to me, makes DeSantis the next nominee. I really do think that. I know.
Maybe we need to take bets for the next show. Maybe we need to get it out there and see, because I think there was a poll that this indictment,
he got a bump from it.
40 points or something above DeSantis, but who knows? We're still a year and a half out.
Yeah, but what you're leaving out is that's what the voters think now, but the Republican Party knows they need to cut bait with Trump. So they control the media. So if the media starts telling the public that Trump can't win, it's just like the Bernie thing.
Yeah.
Once Republicans start getting hit with the message of this guy can't win.
Right. I don't know. I think we should take bets next week.
Yeah. Let's take bets.
Let's take bets. Hey everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. I'll be back in my regular studio next week. Pat, thanks for doing the heavy work this week. Love you guys.
Cheers. Appreciate everyone.
Keep punching up. We'll see you next week. Bye.